Hi guys, and welcome to week 2 of Fiction Online. So we've gotten off to kind of a bumpy start. Moodle was offline for a couple of days, and email was kind of funky too. We should be back on track. Everything should be fine. So I think that because the first week or so of this class is a little bit light, you'll be able to easily get caught up. We'll get back on our same page between today, Friday, and next Wednesday. So I've posted some articles and resources for you to look at over the next few days. And then you also have your first reading assignments out of The Art of the Short Story. One of the articles that I've asked you to read is about the art of annotating your text. So writing a lot as you read. You should always have a pen or pencil in your hand as you're reading anything. And since this book was so darn cheap, I cannot stress enough that you should keep it after the semester is over. So just mark it up like crazy. Write in the margins, use post-it notes, anything that helps you be a more active reader. It may be that you underline a sentence that you just think sounds wonderful, or you may underline a name that references something you don't know, and you look that up and write the definition in the margin. Just work on being a really active reader. At the beginning of the week, you read the section in the Art of Short Story, also about the elements of short fiction. So theme, symbolism, characterization, plot, etc., etc. So I want you to be thinking about all of those elements from day one in this class as you read. Oftentimes in literature classes, they're presented as kind of different, separate elements, but they all work together to create a piece of literature. And of course, as you learn to analyze these things, you'll start seeing them in good films, good television shows that are more literary instead of commercial. And that's another topic for this week as well I want you to be thinking about, is the difference between literary and commercial fiction. And we'll be reading literary fiction this summer, which means, well, there are some disagreements with what exactly these definitions mean. But the way I often define it is that literary fiction is written for perhaps a narrower audience, and it requires a lot more active thought and analysis. Commercial fiction is meant to entertain. It's meant for a really wide audience, and oftentimes it's meant to make money. So if you think about going to the movies, I think it's pretty easy to think about the difference between commercial and literary fiction. Commercial fiction, when we think about the movie theater, is big blockbusters, the X-Men movie, the big comedies that you just kind of go to be entertained. Um, More literary fiction, when we talk about film, would be those smaller independent art house films that at the end of it you have to think about it, or you may want to have a really interesting conversation about it with the person next to you. It's not just to go to be scared or to laugh, it's to think. And that's not a perfect definition, but that's kind of how I define it. So the literature we read this summer is to make you think. And there's a lot of pleasure to be gained from that kind of active analytical reading. Um, Another article that I'm asking you to read this week is kind of shows what we can gain from reading literature and looking at the world around us in a more analytical way. So we'll be doing that throughout the semester. So it's important that you understand all of those elements of literature um, and how they come together to make a piece of literature, and also how to analyze and look through a specific lens. So you could read Sunny's Blues and narrow in just thinking about character. Who's the protagonist? Who's the antagonist? Is our protagonist dynamic? Does he change throughout the story? You can look at Sunny's Blues and think about symbolism. What does the music in the story symbolize? Kind of show that. So I want you to start switching your brain on that way as you read literature, kind of looking for specific things. And annotating your text is a great way to be on the lookout for those different literary elements within a story. So dig in this week, look at all of those resources. I like to kind of give you a very full tool belt at the beginning of the semester so you can go forward and build your analyses with that full tool belt. So these first couple of weeks are kind of heavy on the PowerPoints and the articles, but if you kind of get a good understanding of some of these elements of fiction and things to be looking out for, the rest of the semester will be much easier and more pleasurable as you go about reading and writing about the text. I'm also asking you to participate in the discussion forum this semester, or this week. So you'll read Sunny's Blues by James Baldwin and Happy Endings by Margaret Atwood. These are very different pieces of fiction. As you read, of course, annotate. Read the introductory biographical information about the author, and also read the blurb at the end of the story. The stories in your book, another reason this book is really cool, is that it includes an excerpt from something that the author has written, oftentimes specifically about the story itself. So always read from the title to the very last sentence of the author's commentary at the end of the story. Then you'll go in the discussion forums, and I've provided some discussion questions. So for each story, you'll go into the forum, respond to one of the prompts. Indicate which prompt you're responding to, and give your reflection. Do that by Monday at midnight. Normally it's Sunday, but this week was a little strange, obviously. And then go in and respond to at least one classmate total by Wednesday at noon. So start to get used to being involved in the discussion forum. Also, do the Elements of Short Fiction quiz by next Wednesday at noon. Again, be sure you kind of understand those questions and responses, and that will make the rest of the semester a lot more meaningful. So do a lot of reading, marking up your text, and discussing, and a short quiz. And the other thing I'd like for you to do this week is to start your journal. So the journal for this semester is pretty open-ended. Everyone's is going to look quite different, and depending on your interests, you can kind of mold it to look the way that you want it to. So for each week, I've given you 4 different options, and each week you just need to have 3 entries in your journal. So I'm going to move this window around a little bit. By the end of the semester, you should have between 18 and 24 excerpts, 6 or 7 weeks of doing this journal. So, like I said, I've given you 4 different approaches. You can briefly research the historical context of a story or a piece of the story and give information about what you find. You can give a creative response to a story you've read. Write something emulating the author's style. Write something in response to the subject matter. Write your own poem. Write your own short story. A third option is to construct a critical response to something you've read or seen in your personal life. So practicing analysis on things outside of class. So you may go see a movie and notice that the color green kept showing up at really interesting times, and you want to analyze and show how that green symbolized rebirth and newness. Do that. And another option is to personally reflect on a short story read that week. So how you personally might have been affected by that story. So those are 4 different approaches every week. What I'm asking you to do is do 3 of those things every week. So one week you might feel really creative, so you kind of focus on the creative responses. Another week you might see that movie on a Friday night and make all these connections and focus on that. So I want you to be thinking and kind of engaging every week with the things that we're reading and talking about. So do this week by week. By the end of the semester, you'll have a 100-point assignment ready to turn in. Please don't wait until the last minute to do this. You will just be hurting yourself and your grade, because I can certainly tell when these things are rushed. But if you just work on this journal week by week, it's not that much work at all, and it's meaningful work. So jump into that right away as well. You can keep a blog on Blogger or WordPress, or you can just keep a Word document where you add on week by week. And at the end of the semester, I'll collect the URL to your blog if you keep a blog, or you'll upload the Word document. Just please don't use the blog function in Moodle. It's not incredibly user-friendly. So either keep a blog online or do the Word document. So in addition to the reading and discussing and the quiz, start your journal this week. Jump right in, and if you do, fill your metaphorical tool belt right away this semester and really kind of start to understand the elements of fiction. The rest of the semester will be, like I said, much more meaningful, and your writing and thinking and discussing will be much deeper. So let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and have a great week.